Welcome to module 3. Uh, so we will be talking about IP as a IoT network layer. If we observe the syllabus, IP as a IoT network layer is given as a topic name. Actually, it is a chapter name. Okay, so it would have been made bold. So again, in the first time 2 years back in IoT, so people got question as explain IP as a IoT network layer. Actually, it is a entire chapter name, uh, but that's okay. So students wrote what they remembered, and eventually they got marks. But what I say is, if you get that kind of a question, so you need to elaborate 4 points, four main points. That is business case for IP, the need for optimization, optimizing IP for IoT, profiles and compliance. So these are the 4 points we have to elaborate. So each of these 4 points we will see. Actually, according to the question, according to the convention. So normally, I have also written what kind of question you may get. Explain the business case for IP, the need for optimization, optimizing IP for IoT, profiles and compliances. So these are four different topics. Okay, so which may form the basis for independent question on these topics. Okay, so suppose, so you may not get, that was a mistake. Now you may not get that. Last time people got a proper question paper. Okay, so that's not the point here. So even if you get by mistake, so explain IP as IoT network layer, elaborate these 4 points. The points one by one we will see. First 2 points we will take in this video. So the business case for IP and need for optimization. There are two other points in this chapter. So optimizing IP for IoT and profiles and compliances. Okay. So one by one we will see. Okay. So the first topic is the business case for IP. Okay. So just go for that one. Okay, so the first topic, business case for IP. What question you may get? Okay, so write a note on business case for IIP, IP. Okay, so Internet Protocol. So write a note on business case for IP, or write a explain business case for Internet Protocol. So the question may, so mainly these are the 8 points you should know. Okay, so in the IP, as you know, or Internet Protocol, so it is acts as a network layer address to any device which is connected to the network. So link layer address is a MAC, okay, and also you have physical layer. So in network layer where actually the routing happens, okay, so the packet which is to be transported, it should be routed from source to destination. Okay, so this is source and destination and all the endpoints. Here endpoints means devices which are connected to the network. These are called endpoints. Okay, so in the IoT nomenclature, IoT way of telling things. Okay, so the endpoints, so what are which are connected. So all these have, and also routers, gateway, everything has a IP address which acts as a network layer address for routing the packets which are trafficked, right? Okay, so Internet Protocol. So there are versions of Internet protocols, IPv4, IPv6. Okay, so the IPv4 had had 4 octets. Okay, so each octet has a 8 bits. Okay, 8 into 4, 32. So it has a 32-bit address. Okay, so now it has yeah, IPv6 we have. So the IPv6 have a 128-bit address. Okay, so instead of octets here means 8 number of bits. Okay, so you may have known that 192 dot 168 dot something like that, right? So those are they are represented with the octets, means in a octal number. So in IPv6 things are represented in a hexadecimal number. So these are the, so total 128 bits are there. Okay, so with that one, Uh, so can we use that same IP in IoT also? That is the question. First question. So Internet of Things, we want to connect as many as devices as possible to the network. Okay, so we also saw that so if we connect like that, there will be many uh, problems associated, many complexities associated. So and also we have to design all the protocols, we have to design all the architecture and everything. Okay, so the question arises, whether IP, so we have to do something for routing the packet. So we have many devices which are connected and we have to route them from source to destination. Do we need a new protocol, or the internet protocols which is present now, is it enough? Okay, is it enough? And or do we need to have do we need to make some modifications in the IP? Okay, so that is the question. So we are trying to answer in this chapter. So the author says that the present internet protocol is good enough, okay, to be integrated with the IoT concepts and IoT architecture. Maybe there is a need for optimization. Okay, so as the resources and networks are constrained, okay, they have limited networking and computing power. So maybe some minor modifications is needed in internet protocol, but internet protocol is good. That's what the author is proposing here. Okay, so in that, with that goal, the author is the first author of the book is first proposing what is the business case for IP. Okay, so I'm adopting internet protocol in my design of the Internet of Things architecture or system design. Okay, so is IP good? How it is good? Okay, why it is good? So that's what we have to answer. Or any other type of things are there which are good, equally good. So that's what we have to answer. Okay, so the first one is the business case for IP. Okay, so why IP has to be used? So that will be the question we will try to answer. Okay, so the business case for IP, the first case, okay, the first advantage, the okay, so the first advantage of internet protocol over any other protocol, or the main drive for internet protocol to be adopted in IoT. So the first reason is it's open and standard based. Okay, so you may all have known what is the open source software. Okay, what is open source software? So you will also have, if you have the source code, you will have the documentation. You have the license to download. Okay, so GNU license. Okay, so you can download, modify according to your wish, and upload back again. Okay, so you can modify that software. It's a open source software. Okay, so you have the source code, you can make modifications. So for example, Windows is a closed one. Okay, it's not an open source because you don't have the source code. You cannot make the modification according to your wish. Windows is a closed one. Macintosh, at least in Windows, you can download and install some softwares. Okay, so of third-party vendor is relatively easy. Apple is completely closed, we can say. Okay, whatever. So open source Linux, example open source software. So in here, that's the example for in the case of software. So I told that because we are familiar with that. Okay. So here it's open and standard based. All the documentation regarding internet protocol, so it's a open source. Okay, so you can download it for free, use it in your products if you are building. So it's open and standard based. So standard based means as we know, so many vendors, okay, many consortiums comes together and decide upon a standard. For example, a very simple everyday example. So suppose we have a bicycle. Okay, so the chain of the bicycle, normally it will be of standard length normally. Why? All there are many vendors for the bicycle chain, and there will be a standard which is followed for every product. Why? Because uh, so it creates economy of scale. Okay, so we can use a different vendor. So if I am not satisfied with one vendor, I can switch on to the another vendor. That gives me flexibility. Okay, so there can be an interoperability. So that's why to achieve that one, okay, it also drives innovation. Okay, so some third party can come and use all the materials which are present in the standard and introduce something new. Okay, so it's open and standard based. So it's easily available for free in the internet to download. So you can develop products on that, and also the specification of internet protocols are standards based. Okay, so standards here it is IETF, so in Internet Engineering Task Force. Okay, so they specify how it should be routed, what should be the fields of IP, and everything. So the how should be the packet, how it should be routed, and all those things are specified. And every vendor, okay, every innovator, every organization follow the same standards. This makes the IAP interoperable. Okay, so readily you can take the API, so IAP architecture and integrate into the IoT. You don't have to worry whether it will be compatible with some other systems or something. The compatibility will be there because it is standard based. They all follow the same standard. Okay, so uh, so the takeaway from this point is, so if you are designing an IoT system, okay, so if you integrate, if you decide to use the internet protocol in that, so it is easily available. Okay, so it is the all the standard what you will use, the same standard will be used by the other ones also. Okay, so it will be interoperable. You don't have to worry about interoperability. So it will be market ready when you complete the design. There will be no technical flaw with respect to internet protocol. Okay, so that's what about open and standard based. Uh, while you are writing the answer, what I stress is these 8 points dicto you have to write. The explanation for these 8 points may differ. That's okay. Means don't write rubbish. Okay, but the sentence may change. But these 8 points, what you have, they have to be ditto. So you are not supposed to change that one. Now the second point is the versatile. Okay, so the what is a versatile? Now suppose you have made IP as your routing protocol, so in the network layer, and created a design for IoT system. Okay, so technology changes fast. Now, if a requirement arises of after 5 years that you have to overhaul every entire design because you integrated IP and that IP has become obsolete now, something new technology has come. After 3 or 5 years, you have to change complete design of that architecture. That is not versatile. What is versatile? Versatile means you have integrated the IP as your network routing protocol in your design. So even after technology change, okay. So even if you want to change the technology, so or update the technology, IP technology, so it should not be the case that entire design is changed. Okay, so only as layered architecture, only that network layer should be changed. Okay, so IP is predominantly a part of layered architecture. Okay, so what is the benefit of layered architecture? So layered architecture means if you want the same change some technology, for example, physical layer. So in physical layer where the device is hardware technology always change. So in hardware, so you don't have to change the application layer, you don't have to change the transport layer or any other layer, you just change the hardware, that's it. So that changes the hardware layer. So that's the main idea of layer technology, which are without changing the upper or the layer below, you should be able to change the technology, update the technologies of the current layer. Okay, so that is versatile. So here IP is versatile. It follows a layered architecture. It is okay with wired systems also. IP is okay with wireless. It's okay with Ethernet. Okay, so if you want to update the IP system, fine. Okay, don't have to redesign the entire system. You just have to change what is required, minimal requirement. Okay, so and also it is robust. It has a support across the world. It is well known. It is familiar. Okay, so if you make an investment in an IP architecture, that IP architecture will be valid for next 10 years. Okay, so if you are making a design and someone is investing there, right? So if someone is investing and after 3 years that person has to reinvest everything because you have to change the IP architecture, so that's a bad investment. That's not versatile. Okay, so versatile here means It's okay with any. So there are myriads of technologies in internet, and I think it's okay with all kinds of technologies. It attaches or it accepts all kinds of technologies. Last mile technologies, Wi-Fi, cellular, you name it. IP is okay with everything. That's why it is a versatile. Okay, it's seamless. It's versatile. Next point, it is a ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means inherently it is everywhere. Okay, so ubiquitous. Now, so Windows supports IP, yes. Mac supports IP, yes. Almost everything supports Internet Protocol. So that's ubiquitous. It's seamless. Okay, so suppose the specification IET of Internet Engineering the Task Force, what they did, the one who specifies what IP should be. Okay, so they said, okay, transit from IPv4 to IPv6, fine. So everyone transited. Okay, so Mac supported it, Windows supported it, some router supported it, Cisco supported it, everyone supported it. Okay, so ubiquitous means it's pervasive everywhere. Okay, so you look around the systems and all systems support IP addressing. Okay, so that's the ubiquitous. And it's the business case as everyone is using. Okay, everyone is using. So what's the so there will be economics of scale. There will be innovation. Okay, so there will be a good support for the system IP system. So if we use who what everyone is using, which is tried and tested over time, then it will be very good for our design. So we should, in the while designing any architecture, not only IP, so while designing any architecture, we should always consider something so which has been tested over time, which is reliably used by everyone, which is confidently used by everyone. So they should, so because usually those kind of specifications like IP, they will be perfect. Perfect means, you know, so the in from business point of view, we should always use the technology which is mature. We should not be investing a huge sum of money in some technologies that are not mature. So if we put like something go wrong, all the investment goes down to drain, right? So IP is a proven over long time and has been adopted by various systems. Okay, so various systems, very high profile systems. So IP is tried and tested. Okay, and also in future also, if any update has to be made like IPv4 to IPv6 transition, it will be supported by everyone. So it is very much safe to adopt IP, Internet Protocol, for Internet of Things. The fourth point, that IP is scalable. So as we have discussed several times, scalable means I'm able to increase or reduce the number of devices, number of endpoints connected to the network. Okay, so I can connect 10. Uh, there may be only two devices using IP, fine. So there may be 10, there may be 1,000, there may be millions, there may be billions. The complexity of routing and all those things may differ. That's the different thing. But IP accepts this challenge. Okay, so if you want to increase the end devices by a huge number, IP can do it. You don't have to introduce some completely a new networking paradigm. You don't have to do that. So IP as a concept can be easily used and for a very large network. Okay, and very small network also. It's suitable for small networks to large networks. Okay, so from thousands of devices to millions of devices. Now the routing strategies may change. If we have millions of devices, how to route them reliably. So whether you have to use TCP, whether you have to use a UDP, those all things may change. Okay, so but IP as a concept, IP as a packet, the packet which is present, so those are absolutely usable. Okay, so the underlying concept will never change. Only so the view of using will change. Okay, so it is scalable. Okay, so it can incorporate millions of private and public infrastructure nodes. Okay, so they have been reliably been operational for a long time. Okay, so these things or these smart devices can also be used. Okay, so even IPU can be used for devices which use voice over IP. So there are some endpoints, some millions of devices which do voice over IP. Okay, IP supports that. Okay, how it routes, that's a different case. Okay, but IP supports that. So IP is, that's why we say IP is versatile. IP is versatile because okay, I want to do a voice over IP. It is fine. Okay, so that's why it's scalable. So basically, what is scalable? So it supports a large number of devices. You can scale the number of devices. Means you can, so you have like 100 number of devices. You can make it 1,000. You can make it 10. It doesn't say I will not route 10 or I will not route thousands. Okay, so that's a scalable. The fifth point is IP is manageable and highly secure. So manageable means, see, there are different use cases of internet protocols, and as it has been in the market over 30 years, there are different algorithms and strategies which are developed to manage different situations which are there. Okay, and also highly secure. So all the cryptographic protocols and encryption protocols, IP supports them. Okay, so especially so we are in a situation where the endpoints are very resource constrained. The experience which has been there with the IP for last 30 years makes it easy for the designers, software engineers, to design the system such that so the challenges which comes with billions of endpoints connecting the network are managed well. So there are several algorithms and strategies which are developed over time and they are time tested. Okay, so because IP has been in the market for a lot of years, 30 years. Okay, so it is manageable. There are algorithms which can take care of many kind of situations that will arise, and also it supports all kind of security measures like encryption. So next topic is IP. The point is IP is stable and resilient. So what is resilient? Resilient means we may compare it to fault tolerance. If there is something in the network which goes wrong, still that system should be able to be up and running. It should be operational. Okay, so if we are using IP in our architecture, okay, so even if some routers or some gateway goes wrong, so still our IP like home automation network or whatever industrial IoT, so all the systems still they will be operational. Maybe the efficiency will come down, but still the system will be operational. That's resilient. Okay, so so and next one, it is stable. Okay, so it is stable and it is resilient. So whichever architecture we take, so all the systems should be always up and running. So we want to make it the maximum use out of it. So it's not that it runs for some times and does not run for some time. So that should not happen. Okay, so in most of the there are different use cases that will arise when we deploy the systems on field. Okay, so a stable and resilient system always take up the challenges and it should be able to operate satisfactorily, even in the situations which are not guessed. Okay, which are not predicted. Even uh, it should be working well. The system should be operational even in an unpredictable situation. If that is the case, that's the characteristics of a good system. Okay, so IP is stable. So over the time, so IP has been used in different designs. Okay, so and it has proved itself to be a stable and resilient one. Okay, so that's also a motivation for us to adopt IP in IoT systems. And also consumers market adoption. So as said early, um, so it's IP is there for past 30 years, and if we say all the networking vendors support internet protocol as it is open and standard based. Okay, people have adopted it. Okay, so and developed their own innovative technology over this standard which was proposed by IP. Okay, so you take Cisco, you take Juniper. So all the devices which they produce, they conform to the IP standard, and they have made use of IP because there is vendor adoption and consumers have also accepted it. Okay, so you don't have to convince your consumers that IP is good. So consumers and vendors already know that IP is good. So if you adopt some techniques or some new protocol instead of IP protocol, some new routing protocol is adopted, then you have to convince your customer that your protocol is good. Okay, but that's not the case here. IP has been in the market and consumers have adopted, have trust in it. So consumer market adoption is readily available if we integrate internet protocol in IoT. Okay, so then another one is the innovation factor. In innovation, there are a lot of innovative. So if you take World Wide Web, e-commerce, social networking, mobility, so all the innovative product which came over time. Okay, so they adopted IP. Okay, and also as it is open and standard based, everyone has free access to IP. Okay, so as everyone has a free access to IP, so talented people always develop new solution for the existing problems. Okay, so suppose we have using some IPv6 and some configuration. So after some 3 or 4 years, a new solution will come up. Okay, so why the new solution will come up? Because as it is freely available for everyone, it is standard based. Standard is there and it is available. It's an open source, so talented people have access to it, and more innovation are done. Okay, so if you observe Linux, if you observe any open source, more and more innovations are done. Okay, in a on a community based context, right? So similarly, this community contribution, organized vendor contribution, all kind of contribution lead to more innovation in the field of IP. If we have some unique technology which no one uses, only one or two organization use, all the innovation, the burden for future development burden falls on that organization only. So if we go for an open and standard based IP or any other technology which is open and standard based, then more and more people will adopt it. As a result, it becomes more and more uh, tried and tested one. Okay, more and more innovations. The burden of innovation is not only on us, it's a community based, it will become a community based innovation, right? So the innovation factor is there if we use IP. Okay, so these are the 8 points. So as I said before, so these 8 points, it should be ditto, should not change that one. So the elaboration for these 8 points can be a liberal one. The next topic we will discuss in this lecture is the need for optimization. Okay, so what the author is saying, the author is proposing that IP is good for IoT architecture. Okay, so why it is good? So what is the driver behind proposing this architecture? So we have seen in business case. Okay, so why it is beneficial now. So we are now convinced, the author is now convinced that IP has a business case to be integrated in IoT architecture. So next the question comes whether we will take IP as it is, or do we need to make some changes. Okay, is there any requirement to make some changes? Okay, so the author says some optimization is needed. Okay, so why the optimization is needed, what optimization need to be done, that's different case. So some reasons are given by the author and conclude that there is a need for optimization. Okay, so some optimizations are needed. So the network, it has to cope with IP devices, non-IP devices. Okay, so it has to cope with a very different kinds of nodes. Okay, so nodes means here routers, endpoints, everything. So all the devices which are connected to the network, they can be treated as a node. So there may be constraints, there may be constraints about networks, there may be different IP versions. Okay, so because of all these reasons, so there is a need for optimization. Okay, so mainly 3 points the author lists. Okay, so why there is a need for optimization. Okay, So the first one is the constrained nodes. Okay, so we have uh, discussed this in the first module that IoT endpoints many times these sensors and smart devices these are resource constrained. Resource constrained in the sense it may have a limited battery power. Okay, it may have a limited uh, computation power. It may have a limited memory. So as it has everything in a limited way, so the nodes will be constrained, considered as a resource constraint. So what to do then? See, as the nodes are resource constrained, we give them limited work. Limited work means whatever. So for example, if it has to report to the server, okay, it does not report it in real time. It will report it in batches. Okay, so instead of continuously in connection with the server, the frequencies the nodes make you communicate with the server only limited frequency. Whenever some event happens, only then the communication is done. So in those kind of cases, there will be saving of battery power, optimum use of memory, and also so on. Okay. So what else? So the constrained nodes. So as it has a limited processing power, okay. So it may not be able to use full IP whole IP stack. So there is something called IP stack involving all the layer TCP IP stack. You know that one. So if there is a computation and memory limitations, constraints, then the entire stack may not be able to be installed there. Okay. So what we have to do? So we have to optimize our IP stack such that only essential services are provided. No need of all the all everything all kind of functionalities it may not entertain. Only limited number of functionalities. Okay, IP stack with a limited number of functionality may be installed in the constraint nodes. Okay, so along with that, so there are other types of nodes also which have no constraints. They are good with the source of power. They are good with like PCs, like laptops. They are good with computing power. They are good with memory and all the things. So there are different kinds of nodes which will connect to the IoT. Okay, so some nodes which does not which have a limited processing power. That's why there will be a limited functionality of IP. Okay, there may be nodes which does not communicate continuously, but they communicate only some event happens. There are some nodes which are completely okay with no constraints. They are well adapted. They have good computing power, memory, and everything. So all kinds of nodes are there. So the IP which will be implemented in IoT, it has to be able to accommodate all those devices. Okay, so it has to be able to accommodate all those devices. For that reason, we need to optimize IP. Okay. So second one is the constrained network. The second reason why the author says we need to optimize IP is the constrained networks. So what is constrained networks? So whenever we say constrained network, it means it has a very low bandwidth. Okay, the network has a very low bandwidth and low power. Okay, so it has a low power and low bandwidth. So how do we measure a network performance? Throughput, delay, latency. So through these things we determine how a network is being performed. Okay, so if it has a limited bandwidth, then there may be cases where all these things fluctuate. Okay, suppose there are some 5 or 10 devices which are using a bandwidth. Okay, so it has some performance. After that, 9 devices log off, and there is only one device which is making of use of. Then the latency performance will be very high. Then again, 5 of the devices log in, and they make using of bandwidth. Again, the latency increase, the throughput, and all those things affects, right? So when we have a very low bandwidth, so there is a very high chance that um, the performance will oscillate between good to bad. Okay, uh, so that will happen. That's why we need to accommodate those. In those cases, the system still has to work well. Though slow, it has to work well. Should be proper mechanisms put in place for to receive packets which are very delivered very lately. Okay, so constrained networks. And also, uh, so as the bandwidth is very low, we need to optimize IP such that the control traffic is very much low. What is control traffic? So control traffic, these are packets which contains commands to routers and other so network administrative devices, right? So this control traffic must be kept bare minimum. Okay, so for all these reasons, in the constrained network means a low bandwidth networks. There are several challenges. Okay, that's why to accommodate all those challenges, we need to optimize internet protocol. Okay, whatever challenges this low bandwidth condition poses, okay, to accommodate, to mitigate all those things, we need to optimize our internet protocol, which we are adopting here. Okay, so any other things? Yes. So there are different IP versions. Okay, so we know that IPv4 and IPv6. Now these are legacy devices. Okay, so legacy means old devices before IPv6 came. Okay, so IPv4 was there. Just because IPv6 came, all old devices will be not be thrown away, because investments are based only, they have to complete their life cycle and new devices has to come put in place. So there are old application protocols which use IPv4. Okay, so there are old internet service providers like 3G, GPRS, Edge. So some like 10 years back people were using. So there may be legacy devices which may be using that one. Okay, in some factories or somewhere. Okay, so next, the devices themselves. So now normally all device bus are parallel communication, but there are devices which support serial communication also, old devices. There may be devices which entertain IPv6 adaptation layer. So so maybe application protocol, maybe at device level, maybe at cellular internet service provider level. So in all level, IPv4 may be used. Old legacy systems, IPv4 may be used. Now it is the time of IPv6. So our internet protocol, our system should be optimized to accommodate IPv4 and IPv6. So both IPv4 and IPv6, and also some adaptation layers and tunneling. It should support tunneling through IPv4 regions. All these mechanisms, optimizations are needed. Okay, so these are so in this topic what we answered. So what we did. So the author in the previous topic said that IP is a good decision to be integrated in the network layer. Next, the author is answering whether we may need to make some changes in IP, or whatever it is good. So the author says there is a need to make some changes, make some optimizations. Okay, what are those optimizations? So what is the need for the top optimization? The author gives three cases. There are constrained nodes are there in the network. The network itself may be constrained, and there are different IP versions. So because of these three reasons, and for all the challenges these three reasons will bring in, IP should be optimized.